My, female 28, boyfriends, male 30, ex hid a note about his cleaning dating habits right before they broke up that I just found. How do I talk to him about cleaning habits without him feeling like I'm using his ex's words against him? I, female 28, and my BF, male 30, who we'll call Steve, have been together for 2 years and have been living together for 8 months. I was cleaning our apartment when I found a note in the back of a cabinet. For context's sake, I'll copy it below. Dear Steve's future girlfriend, I know it's you reading this because he'd never clean back here. I'm putting this here because I'm leaving him soon and want to warn you about him. 1. He will not clean. 2. He will not listen. 3. He will make everything feel like it's your fault. It's not your fault. He's just an incompetent man. I'm leaving him. I suggest you do the same. Best wishes, Natalia. Name changed. I read the note and brought it to show to him and hear his response. He immediately ripped it up and said not to listen to it, that she was crazy and untrustworthy. I told him that the fact that he hasn't found it in the 5 years since they broke up is a red flag to me because it does mean he's never cleaned back there and that he has been cleaning less and less since I moved in. He told me that it wasn't a problem before the note. This is just his ex continuing to manipulate and ruin his life, and I was letting it work. We continued to argue along the same lines, and I eventually left to spend the night at a friend's place. Steve has been a great boyfriend so far. He gets along with my family. He has given me gifts and flowers and always tells me how much he loves me. He's not wrong that the cleaning hasn't really been brought up before. The note made me realize it had been less and less and that we needed to have a full conversation. He texted me afterwards saying he's sorry that I felt like I had to leave, but that it's a jerk move for me to take a note over our 2-year relationship and to leave him and our pets alone. I don't know what to do or what to believe right now. I'm contemplating trying to find and reach out to Natalia. Her name in real life is pretty unique, so I think I could find her. Steve thinks I should come back home and let it go, that his past should not affect our future. I feel like I could be the jerk, because everything Steve has said about Natalia does make it sound like she was manipulative and petty throughout their relationship, but I don't know what to trust. When we moved in together 8 months ago, the cleaning was 50-50. Since then, he's been doing things less and less, and I'd say it's at like 70-30. Maybe 60-40 if he listens to me right away. It depends on the week. I have to remind him to do things like bring his plates to the sink or take out the trash. And I didn't have to before. The dishes will pile up unless I do them, to the point he's had leftover food mold on the plates. I'm not a confrontational person, so I was just asking him to fix it when it came up. The note made me reflect on it more and try to have an actual full conversation. And I will say I didn't feel listened to when I talked to him about it. I tried to use the note to start a conversation about cleaning, and he got so stuck on that I was listening to his ex instead of him, that he wouldn't listen to what I think are valid concerns. He thinks I'm letting the note have confirmation bias, so no matter what he says, I'll think he's in the wrong. Also, I didn't leave him permanently. This all happened yesterday, and I only spent one night at a friend's because I didn't feel like our conversation was going anywhere last night, and he wouldn't let me sleep until I let it go. I'm going back today and wanted to get advice and feedback before I do. I appreciate all these comments with advice. I'm heading back to our place now. My plan is to first apologize for immediately bringing him the note without thinking of his feelings and validate that it's hard to have an ex's message found. That being said, you're all right that I've been letting the cleaning stuff get away. I don't want to be in a relationship where I have to ask him repeatedly to clean. It was pointed out to me that he should have cleaned the shelves during his move from his ex's place. The fact that it hasn't been touched in 5 years is forcing me to take the note seriously. I don't want to throw away 2 years, so I am going to ask him to come up with some clear cleaning expectations with me and designated chores. I will make it clear that cleaning is absolutely a deal breaker for me. It's his decision on how he wants to respond. I'll try to update you all. Again, thank you so much for the advice. Now for the update. I followed your advice from the last post and tried to have a calm discussion with Steve. When I apologized for confronting him with the note, he seemed to take that as an admission of guilt and refused to listen to anything else. I had come up with a list of specific instances of not cleaning like many of you suggested, and he said I was using lists just like his manipulative ex did. So yeah, the crazy ex thing you all said was a red flag was definitely true. When I realized the conversation wasn't going anywhere, he even tried to block me from leaving. That's when I knew it was done and left immediately. 2 years down the drain, but I'm glad I had the wake-up call before it was too late. I will let him cool off, and then will ask my brother to come with me to grab my things while he's not there. He has a strict work schedule, so I think it'll work out. I am planning on leaving a note there, but probably a little longer with the advice to not show it to him. I'm leaving it in the exact same place, so if he doesn't learn his lesson about cleaning, it'll come to haunt him. All he has to do is clean. The biggest surprise out of all of this is that I didn't reach out to Natalia. She reached out to me. Apparently, he borrowed his friend's phone to call her, screaming that she's ruining his life still. The fact that she blocked him and he still had her number memorized just further confirms he was the crazy ex, not her. Natalia found me on social media and wanted to make sure I was okay, and was especially concerned that he'd gaslight me like he tried with her. I thanked her for leaving me the note and saving me time. We scheduled coffee for Thursday afternoon. I wanted to thank you all again for the advice, especially the person who posted the Love is Respect website. I took the healthy relationship quiz after our conversation, and it wasn't great. You called out how he was weaning me into an unhealthy relationship so well. For now, my friend said, I can stay until I find a new place. I have emergency savings and a decent job, so I'm in a privileged place when it comes to this messy breakup, and am just trying to feel grateful for that. Now for a few comments. Gem1I said, kinda sounds like everything she warned you about in the note came true. He had never cleaned there, he didn't listen to your concerns, and he turned it back around on you and somehow made it your fault. Red flag, honestly. NetLawyer commented, this was a blessing in disguise. You dodged a bullet. Any person who will leave food to mold on their dishes is not someone you want to live with. Family, roommate, BFGF, that's just a big no. Now for a few comments. First commenter, on the plus side, could OP now leave a note for the next girl to find, as the dirty, now ex still won't change? Then OP replied, Steve might actually get off his butt and do a deep clean before he has another bangmate over. Another commenter, he wouldn't let me sleep until I let it go. So, I guess Natalia forgot number 4. He's a bully. It's almost ironic how easy it would have been for him to shut this entire thing down with the simplest of responses. You're right. I guess I have been slipping. I'll make sure to clean more. That immediately then counters points 2 and 3. But he'd rather be right, and he'd rather be the aggrieved party. You didn't do anything wrong by trying to have a conversation off the back of that note. All things considered, it's a pretty funny thing to find, and his reaction should tell you everything. Now for the one-day update. As you can tell by my original post, I like to do things right away. It was definitely a mistake to bring him the note right away, but doing the things I did this morning right away was not a mistake, as it allowed me to save my pets. First, I want to respond to the comments saying I broke up a 2-year relationship over a note and chores. No, I broke up a 2-year relationship because when I tried to come up with solutions to an unequal situation, his response was to yell and try to convince me there was no problem except me. The final straw was when he physically blocked me from leaving the house after he was screaming at me. That is not okay, and no one should stay with a man who responds to conflict like that. The actual update, I wound up texting the post to Natalia last night, and she thought it was great. She, like some of you, asked me about the pets. For context, one of the things Steve and I connected on was our love for little creatures. It's why I thought he was such a great guy, because if he could take such intricate care of his lizard, he could do the same with me. I was very wrong. He has 1 lizard he bought before me, and then we bought 2 frogs together. I have a snake I brought with me when I moved in, I was planning on waiting until he cooled down to go grab my things and the frogs and snake, thinking he would never hurt them. But Natalia changed my mind. She said he could get destructive when he's mad and was concerned about the safety of my little guys. I immediately knew I couldn't wait until later this week and reached out for a meeting with the landlord for early this morning. I wound up FaceTiming with Natalia last night, and we had a long discussion. Natalia is a lawyer and told me that in our state, landlords are required to let me get out of the lease I signed in cases of domestic violence. She also told me that his yelling, gaslighting, and refusing to let me leave are all types of abuse. It's definitely hard for me to sit with that, but the Love is Respect relationship quiz helped me also realize that a bit more last night. Apparently, his constant messaging and control over what I wore and when were signs of abuse too. Anyway, this morning Natalia volunteered to come talk to the landlord with me alongside my brother. As soon as he heard the word lawyer, he was on top of it and said I could break the lease, but would still have to pay for all of August, even though I'm leaving 3 days early. I felt like that was fair. He also messaged Steve to say the apartment needed to be empty for emergency maintenance all day today, so I could pack my things. Steve messaged back that he was at work all day and wouldn't be home until 6 p.m. When I got into the apartment, it was a mess. He had broken my dishes that I had brought with me on the ground and left the shards laying about. My clothes were ripped up and scattered around our room. It was disgusting and heartbreaking. He left his lizard alone, but opened the tank doors for our frogs and my snake. Luckily, the frogs were still chilling in their enclosure, but my snake had gotten loose. This made me the most mad, as she could have gotten cut on the broken plates. I feel so fortunate that she was just hiding in the closet corner, and I was able to pack her up safely in her enclosure again. All my things are packed, and I'm writing this as my brother drives me back to my friend's house right now. Natalia told me that she actually left 3 notes, one in the cabinet, one on the underside of the vacuum, and one in the crumb catcher of the toaster. While we were there, we checked to see if the notes were still there. The one on the vacuum was, but it looks like Steve did clean out the crumb catcher at least once in the past 5 years. He never told me he had already found a note in our conversations, so it caught me by surprise. Natalia and I left the vacuum note as is and replaced the cabinet one. I wasn't comfortable leaving my name on a new note, so my addition was a handout on healthy versus unhealthy relationships and a QR code to the quiz that woke me up. Natalia said if he didn't find the notes in those 5 years, especially after the move, he probably won't find them again. I'm inclined to agree, especially given he did find one, but then didn't even clean the rest of the house to see if there was any more. Steve doesn't make sense to me, and seeing the state of the apartment really woke me up to the fact that I have no idea who he is. The Steve I knew would never put animals in danger, but I don't think I really ever knew Steve. To the people saying it's pathetic that I broke up my relationship because of chores and Reddit, I encourage you to reflect on the subtle ways that abuse starts. This Reddit thread woke me up to it and gave me the resources to get out safely before it got any worse. I also made an appointment for a therapist. I'm very lucky that my job has good insurance, so I should be able to work through this relationship, and am hoping to focus on boundaries and my people-pleasing habits, so I never find myself in this situation again. To the people wishing that Natalia and I would get together, we had a good laugh about it. Natalia is engaged to a wonderful man who cleans, listens, and reflects. She said there's a phenomenon that when people break up with their awful ex, their soulmate can quickly follow. I'm hoping that's true. Regardless, I do think I got a good friend out of this, especially since Natalia is a snake mom too. This is my final update. I hope if you learn anything from my experience, it's that abuse doesn't start right away. First, there's love bombing, gifts, and pretty words, and then slowly they test how much you'll put up with. You should never have to put up with anything, especially moldy freaking plates. Now for a few comments. Commenter, Steve probably didn't have a choice for that one. The paper and crumbs mix would have started smoking at some point. Now for the 19 days later update. I haven't posted in a while. I don't know if anyone will see this, but I wanted to get it off my chest. I'm hoping this isn't too rambling. I'll go in chronological order. When we went to his apartment, I took pictures of all the damage. Natalia told me I could press charges if I wanted. She couldn't represent me due to conflict of interest, but that she'd find me someone good. I didn't want to at first. Then I saw a comment saying making a report can create a record that would help a potential future girlfriend be believed if something happened. Natalia saved me. I wanted to do the same. So a couple days later, I pressed charges. The police went to interview Steve and the landlord. The destroyed apartment, combined with police, was enough for the landlord to evict him. So basically, by destroying my things, he destroyed his life. I work as a physical therapist, and my boss was nice enough to give me a week off after it all went down. I was able to find a new place, although it's a bit more expensive. When I went back to work, Steve was parked in the parking lot. I got out my phone and started recording, just in case. My lawyer said to document everything. I wanted to walk into my building where I knew there were a bunch of people, and he was farther away, so in my adrenaline, I thought I could make it without him catching up. I was wrong, and he grabbed my hand when I was about 5 feet from the door. At first, he was soft-spoken. He said he wanted to apologize, but I hadn't been responding to his calls. I said, "We're done," and to leave me alone, and tried to get my hand free. That pissed him off, and he pulled me tighter and started yelling that I ruined his life and that I owed him. One of my coworkers came out at the commotion. He's a big guy and a lot taller than Steve, who immediately backed up. I told him to leave and not bother me again, and he left. The video of that incident, plus the security cameras from the past several days of him waiting in the parking lot when he knows my shift starts, was enough for my lawyer to get a restraining order. He's left me alone since then, took a plea deal, and he doesn't know where my new place is, so I think I'm finally in the clear. I didn't want to post until all of it was settled. I'm doing better now. I've had multiple therapy sessions. Natalia and I have hung out 3 times, and the last time Steve didn't even come up. My workplace has rallied behind me, and now I get walked by my coworker from my car to the door. I am so grateful for the support system that has rallied behind me. I wouldn't have gotten through this without it. That includes all of the advice and support I got here. Now for a few important comments. First commenter said, "You did good, but please stay aware of your surroundings at all times, but especially at night. Your coworker won't be close by when you go grocery shopping or to a mall. You got Steve evicted. You pressed charges. People like Steve may do okay short term, but the restraining order will expire in 90 days or so. People like Steve can be very patient. If you aren't inclined to go full martial arts, but please learn some basic self-defense. Stay safe." Then another commenter added, "Restraining orders can be ordered for different lengths. The one I had for my ex-husband was ordered for 2 years automatically by the judge based on what he had done. Unfortunately, during our divorce, his lawyers did get it reduced, but if he ever acts out again, I do have the history to show that it should be approved again." Am I the idiot for asking my girlfriend's friends to pay for their share of our romantic getaway? I recently took my girlfriend, Emily, on a weekend trip to a popular beach town. I booked a nice hotel room for us to enjoy a romantic getaway. Everything was great until the second night when Emily invited her 2 friends, Laura and Kate, to hang out with us. She didn't tell me they were coming, and I was a bit surprised, but went along with it. Things got even more awkward when they decided to crash in our hotel room because they didn't want to pay for their own. I was annoyed, but didn't want to cause a scene. The room was cramped with 4 people, and it definitely wasn't the romantic getaway I had planned. The next morning, I told Emily I wasn't comfortable with her friends staying for free and that I felt they should chip in for the room. Emily got defensive and said it was rude to ask them for money since they're her friends. I argued that it was unfair for me to cover the entire cost when I only planned for the 2 of us, and she invited them without consulting me. Emily eventually asked Laura and Kate if they could help with the cost. They were taken aback, but agreed reluctantly. However, Emily was still upset with me, saying I embarrassed her in front of her friends and that I should have just let it go. When we got back home, Emily told our mutual friends what happened, and now some of them think I was being unreasonable and cheap. Others think I had a point, and that Emily should have asked before inviting her friends to stay. Am I the jerk for asking my girlfriend and her friends to split the hotel cost after they crashed our romantic getaway? Now for a few important comments. Okay, comparison 55. Not the idiot. From what you said, you were the one paying for this hotel room, not your girlfriend. Lara and Kate aren't your friends, they're Emily's, so they're getting to stay in a hotel room off of your dime, not hers. I'd personally feel super uncomfortable sharing a hotel room with the friends of my girlfriend when my intention and plan was to just have a romantic time with my girlfriend. I'm not sure how long you've been dating, but frankly, Emily's decision to invite them without consulting you and subsequent decisions and reactions to them staying in the hotel room with you were disrespectful. She's more concerned about being embarrassed, a situation she put herself in, than she is you not being taken advantage of. I don't want to suggest breaking up, but keep her behavior and reaction in mind for the future. Then OP replied, Indeed, and Ida cake if it's right, but I think I should be the one who should be little upset with her for ruining our date and not the other war around. Egbert 54. You should be more than a little upset. You planned a romantic getaway. Why did she invite her friends? I am guessing she is not into you. Either that, or she is an immature party girl. Either way, prob time to move on. Then OP replied, usually she is very helpful, kind and caring, compassionate towards me, so I think she is into me. This is, you can say, like one-off instance. Vaginal spelunker. I haven't seen many people point it out, but pay attention to the fact she went around to all of your friends about this to spin the narrative against you. She didn't talk to you about it. She tried to send flying monkeys your way. Then OP replied, good point. Now, I'd cake if it was intentional or not, because we usually hang out with mutual friends and share a lot of stuff with each other, whether it's funny, embarrassing, or sad. You are kinda right if all she wanted was to spin the narrative around my friends. Sure, she did. She intentionally wanted to make you the bad guy, when in fact, she is, and all of your friends should see that. She probably told them something opposite of what really happened, probably failed to mention that it was a couple's getaway, not a foursome. Then, OP replied, I guess you are right. Butto, she didn't told something opposite because I was with them. It's just that she thought it was my mistake when it clearly looks like it's not. Not the idiot, but your GF seems to suck. It's abnormal to invite friends on a couple's holiday, and even worse to expect them to be able to share your room. Then OP replied, Exactly. And what's worse is her getting upset and blaming me when I think it should be other way around. Now for the 1-month update. Thanks to everyone who weighed in on my original post. I thought the situation was resolved after our trip, but things have gotten much more complicated since then. After we got back, Emily and I seemed to be on better terms, but something still felt off. A couple of days later, I found out why. I started getting weird vibes from Kate, one of the friends who stayed with us at the hotel. She was being extra flirty with me whenever we hung out in our friend group, which was completely out of character for her. Then, out of the blue, Kate sent me a string of messages late one night, confessing that she had developed feelings for me during the trip. She claimed that watching me stand up to Emily and handle the whole situation made her see me in a different light. She even admitted that she'd been trying to get my attention all weekend, but I was too focused on the awkwardness to notice. I was shocked and immediately shut her down, telling her that I'm committed to Emily and that this wasn't appropriate. Kate apologized and said she'd keep her distance, but the whole thing left me feeling really uneasy. Here's where it gets even messier. A few days later, I noticed Emily was being distant and cold again. I thought it was just lingering tension from the trip, but then she confronted me, saying she had seen some of the messages Kate sent me. I had nothing to hide, so I showed her the full conversation, but instead of calming down, Emily blew up at me. She accused me of leading Kate on and trying to make her jealous on purpose during the trip. No matter how much I tried to explain that I wasn't interested in Kate and had no idea she felt that way, Emily refused to believe me. She started bringing up random moments from the trip, claiming I paid more attention to Kate than I did to her, and suggesting I was somehow responsible for Kate's feelings. Now, Emily is being incredibly passive-aggressive, throwing jabs at me about how easy it is for me to attract attention, and making snide comments whenever we're with our friends. The worst part is that she hasn't confronted Kate about it at all. Instead, she's channeling all her frustration toward me. Our relationship feels quite complex, and I don't know how to fix this. I'm starting to wonder if this whole mess would have been avoided if I hadn't asked for the money in the first place, or if it's just exposed deeper issues between us. Now for a few important comments. Own name 6239. No, not the idiot. It's one thing if you were willing to pay for your GF, since it was a trip the both of you planned and took into consideration of budgeting for the both of you. For her to invite her friends and expect you to cover their cost outside of the originally planned budget, then to become upset that the friend she invited began flirting with you? Not the idiot. I honestly do think you need to have a serious talk, though. Then AP replied, yeah, and it keeps getting complex worse without any serious fault of mine. Now for a few important comments. Z-Scaler Guy, condolences. This relationship with Emily needs to end. You need to end it, recover, and strive to live a healthy, happy life. You did nothing wrong. Perhaps minor AH for not telling Emily that Kate messaged you. But also, it's possible Emily and Kate conspired to entrap you. You did nothing wrong as per the trip. Emily set it up so that her friends would get a free hotel stay. That was completely wrong and inappropriate on her part. All you'll get from Emily is drama. End the relationship. Best of luck. That's so true. I thought it was just one or two issues, but it keeps on increasing. Time to move on. There is nothing but drama in your relationship, and I don't see a way to get through this. Your girlfriend sucks, and you are better off without her. You're also pretty dumb for not telling her about Kate's text as soon as it happened. Yeah, I thought they will fight, which will eventually create another drama. Am I the idiot for leaving my wife after she mocked my childhood trauma and got me fired? I'm male 27, and my wife, female 26, have been married for 2 years and have been together for 6. As context, I was repeatedly raped by my brother's babysitter when I was around 9. She would grope me, force me to remove my pants, and then either stick my weenie in her mouth or try and give me a hand intimacy whenever my 4-year-old brother slept. Most of the time, I was paralyzed and couldn't do anything to stop it. She would always buy me sweets or video games for my DS as a reward. So in a weird way, I started growing attached to her and would try and seek the abuse if it meant getting her rewards. I knew whatever she was doing was wrong, but she would always threaten to take my life if I ever told my parents, so I never did while the abuse was actively happening. Everything stopped as soon as she graduated college and moved states. I only realized how messed up the things she did to me were when I was around 14-15 and understood the concept of consent. When I tried to open up to my parents, strict Catholics, it never ended well. First, they blamed it on corn and claimed it corrupted my mind into imagining these things happening to me. If I claimed I was telling the truth, my dad would beat the shoot out of me and my mom would ground me. I tried opening up to my friends, but their reactions weren't any better. My male friends just called me lucky and asked if the BJ was good. My female friends claimed I was just lying to get attention and laughed in my face. I learned to just try and forget the past and vowed to myself that I would never mention this to anyone again. Now on to last week. Me and my wife had heard some good things about this show called Baby Reindeer on Netflix from our friends. Going into it, I knew it revolved around intimacy abuse and stalking. In my mind, I thought I was over the past and I could handle watching the show no problem. Big freaking mistake. At the end of episode 4, I was literally on the verge of tears and I felt all the supposedly forgotten memories come flooding back. At the end of the next episode, I couldn't hold it in anymore. My wife paused the show and just stared at me. After a while, I did finally manage to calm down a bit. She asked me why I was crying, and I just let everything out. She said she was sorry, hugged me, and we went to bed soon after. I apologized to her the following morning for ruining our night. From the moment I let her know about the abuse, I felt something change in our relationship. No more kisses when I came back from work, and no more initiating anything intimate from her side. She wasn't mean or anything, but I felt like something was bothering her. I tried to apologize for maybe making her uncomfortable, but she would just claim there was nothing bothering her, and I was just being paranoid. Yesterday, me and my wife got into a pretty heated argument about her lying about taking out the trash, but during the argument, she said something that floored me beyond belief. She literally said, "At least I'm not lying about being wrapped, you freaking narcissist." I literally couldn't process whatever just came out of her mouth. She tried apologizing right after saying that, but I just packed a few clothes and left to stay at my friend's house. She tried calling me several times since, but I haven't bothered picking up and have blocked her for the time being. I know I might have trauma dumped on her, and I know women aren't into that, but I just want some sort of acknowledgement support. I don't have anyone left to turn to with this, and that's why I'm posting here. I've had 2 therapists to date, and both didn't seem to help much. My gut is telling me to divorce her, but she's genuinely the love of my life. Throwing away 6 years because of this one moment doesn't sit right with me, but Aita cake. Would I be the idiot for divorcing her? Am I actually the jerk here? I would love to hear some of your guys' opinions on my situation, and if you've read this all the way through, thank you. Now for a few comments. Gnome531 Not the idiot. You did something brave by opening up, and she threw it back in your face. I'm sorry that you've faced such rejection your whole life. Unfortunately, that is all too common for men who have been sexually attacked. It's up to you to decide if you want her back, but either way is valid. Then OP replied, "Thank you so much. I'm pretty sure this happens a lot to women as well. I went to a few anonymous meetings and heard a lot of the same from women who claim people just thought they were trying to get a settlement or something. Hot Cross Bun 72. Not the idiot. As a CSA survivor, the turning point for me in my marriage was when he told me to get over it, and it's been so long. We are now divorcing. While it wasn't the sole reason I left, knowing that he wasn't a safe space for me anymore, if at all, was a driving force. So while I won't tell you to leave her, I will say you do need to speak with a professional regarding the attack, and keep her at a distance while you work through your emotions. She can never take back what she said to you, and there needs to be consequences for that. Senefex. And to add to the part about talking to a professional, OP, you mentioned the ones you've talked to haven't helped. I would keep trying and go to a different therapist until you find one with whom you mesh well. See if you can find one who has a focus on intimacy, abuse trauma, and even check if they have experience in this area with male clients. Now for the 1-month update. First of all, I just want to thank everyone for all the amazing love and support. For the first time in my life, I felt heard and didn't just feel like a burden to people. I don't know what I did to deserve any of this, but I just want to let you all know that I'm beyond grateful. As for the update, shortly after posting, I did decide to go back home. I had work the next day and didn't want to burden my friend with my marital issues any longer. Upon coming home, I was met with her screaming at me for just leaving the apartment and ghosting her without having an adult conversation with her. I just let her know how hurt I was by the things she said to me and that I needed some time to myself to gather my thoughts. She tried arguing back with how there is nothing to think about and that I was being an immature crybaby. From that point onwards, we have barely been on speaking terms. I know a lot of people are going to be mad hearing this, but the longer I thought about my marriage and my wife, the more I wanted to give her another chance. She wasn't perfect by any means, but neither was I. A lot of my past relationships ended as a result of my past catching up with me, but I really want to change it this time. She isn't the first partner/friend to have this type of reaction to what I went through. I know it's tough, but I feel like I just needed to bite the bullet if it meant keeping my sanity. I didn't want to start over again. After we somewhat started talking to each other again, I sat her down for a serious conversation and let her know again how hurt I was by everything she said. I let her know about all the ridicule I suffered as a result of me opening up and her having the same reaction, just reopened, unhealed wounds. She just kept quiet until I mentioned couples therapy. She then started crying, but not for the reason I thought. I tried holding her, but she just pushed me away and screamed that I seriously thought about ending our marriage over some silly argument we had, and that I was just trying to make up some sob story after watching Baby Reindeer for attention and sympathy. According to her, all of this was just too convenient to be believable. If it was real, why didn't I mention any of this throughout the 6 years we have been together? At this point, even I started tearing up. I apologized for keeping this from her for so long, and then tried reassuring her that I, in fact, wasn't making this up, but she just slapped me and stormed off to bed. That was a week ago, and I have been sleeping on the couch ever since. Whenever I try to speak to my wife, she just makes snarky comments towards me and storms off. I just cry myself to sleep most nights and wish I never watched that show. None of this would have happened. I currently don't have the money for therapy and just feel lost. I don't want a divorce. I want to try and make this work, but this whole mess is just so draining. I'm not in contact with my family, so I don't have anyone I can turn to with this. How would you guys move forward in this situation? Now for a few comments. Just Anthony said, "There is no saving this relationship. From the looks of it, you're going to end up miserable and ultimately stop telling her things to avoid arguments and/or belittling from her end. Be honest with yourself. What exactly are you looking for in marriage counseling? She'll need her own individual therapy before she can take on marriage counseling. It won't get anywhere if only one person acknowledges there's a problem. I understand you've been with her for 6 years and she's by far the best you've had, but she isn't the best for you, let alone the one. Why compromise the rest of your life to her when you can get out and move on? You're only 27. You have so much time to get out there and find someone who loves and respects you, all of you. You still have so much time to find someone who will take you and your trauma seriously, who will work with you every step of the way no matter what it is, who will own up to their own faults in a so-called adult conversation. You deserve better. You know you do. Don't settle for less. You wouldn't treat yourself the same way your wife does. Get therapy when you have the money and work on yourself if you believe that you have flaws of your own that contribute to a relationship's failure. It's a cliche saying, but it's better to have no company than bad company. Everyone here supports and believes in you. The only person left is you. You can do it. Within 10 years, you will look back at this and thank yourself for leaving this situation. It's hard work, but you can do it. Now for the 2-month update. Again, I just want to thank everyone for the amazing love and support you guys have shown me on my last 2 posts. Even though the response on my last post wasn't what I expected, it was a reality check for me. I'm beyond grateful for all the DMs, and I promise I'll get to responding to all of them someday. But I'm going through a lot at the moment, so please bear with me. I have over 200 unread DMs. After I posted my update, I realized that I was definitely in an hurtful relationship, and even though I wanted to make the marriage work, she has shown zero willingness to change her attitude towards what I went through. 2 days after posting my update, I contacted a lawyer and filed for divorce. I gave her plenty of chances, and she has time and time shown me that she won't even acknowledge my trauma, let alone show me any form of support. I initially kept everything a secret and slowly started preparing my assets, savings, joint bank accounts, etc. I did finally tell her about me filing for divorce, and she didn't take it well. She tried fighting it and claimed I will never find anyone else that's willing to put up with a giant female genitalia who can't even admit he wanted whatever happened to him. According to her, no woman is willing to put up with an attention-seeking crybaby like myself. I'm not going to lie. What she said got to me, and for a brief moment, I considered halting the divorce. But after she came home drunk one night and berated me for an hour straight, she snapped me back into reality. I don't know where the woman I fell in love with went, but that wasn't her. Looking back now, she'd given me plenty of red flags, but I just ignored them for the sake of being loved for once in my life. For once, I wasn't called gay for not being able to have intimacy when immediately getting into a relationship, wasn't laughed at for having random seizures, etc. I moved out of our apartment after her rant and have been staying at my friend's ever since. After she realized I wasn't coming back anytime soon, she DM'd all my friends claiming that I was an attention intimacy worker and was making up some sob story about being raped and that she was the one actually filing for divorce. Not only that, but she also told them that I was physically hurtful, and according to her, they shouldn't hang around a guy that hits women. Most of my friends just immediately called me names, told me I've failed as a man, and blocked me. The friend I'm currently staying with seems to be the only person on my side. I also want to mention that I moved away from the US to live with my grandparents in Europe when I was 19. There were people who thought that she might have contacted my parents, and that fueled her reaction to the abuse I faced. There is literally zero chance she can contact them since I didn't even tell her their names. I was doing an apprenticeship at a bank, and she even started sending them evidence of me kintikem. Harassing her, I have no clue what she wrote to them. I had a meeting with HR, and they've decided to fire me. I tried fighting it, but they just said that I wasn't worth the hassle. I'm now back doing construction, don't have a proper education, and have lost almost all of the people I'm close with. I'm just beyond tired at this point. Not angry, not sad, just numb. I feel like whenever I try and take a step forward, I take 3 steps backward. Maybe I am just this unlovable and pathetic. Maybe I deserve all that's coming to me. I just don't know anymore. As stated by the title, this will be my last post. Reddit has given me so much great advice and made me realize so many things, and I'm beyond grateful for every single one of you who helped me, but it's also destroyed my mental health. For every 50 positive and supportive comments and DMs I've received, I've had one person say the same things I've heard all my life, and I've let those people get to me. A lot of people ask me why the hell I have such strong feelings towards my babysitter giving me blowjobs. First of all, I was 9, and she on multiple occasions threatened to take my life. Second of all, I left a lot of the other details out of my post because those memories are just too painful. And I didn't think it was relevant for the purpose of my original post. I'm going to mention them here since I've nothing left to lose at this point. She would shove things up my butt like cucumbers, pens, etc. She would regularly hit me in the balls to punish me for disobeying her. She would dress me up as a girl and would force me to dance for her and pose in suggestive positions. There were times where I couldn't walk properly because of the things she did to me, and I got ruthlessly bullied in school as a result. How would you guys navigate my situation? Any advice would be appreciated. Thank you so much for reading this far into my post and supporting me over these past few weeks. Just a big thank you to you/writingmmromance and you, imthatpage, for checking up on me and genuinely being amazing human beings. They helped me through some seriously dark times. Now for a few comments. First commenter said, I hope you are able to find yourself in a better position soon. You deserve so much better. I'm sorry your life has been tainted by such vile people. OP replied, I hope so too, but my hope is running out sadly. Then another commenter said, I personally think you should sue her for defamation. Get as much solid evidence as you can against her, but I also understand if you just want peace from her. Good luck. You're going to be much better off without that psycho. Also, get house cameras and secretly record all interactions with her in case you need the cops involved.